Countdown timer is on the ISN Vision screens. We are 2 minutes away from hearing Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series car in force. 20 deep here on the grid for the Advanced Auto Parts Clash. The most recent winners: Denny Hamlin 2014, Matt Kenseth 2015, 2016 Denny Hamlin repeated, Joey Logano 2017, and Brad Keselowski 2018. Quick math, that's 3 Toyotas and 2 Fords the last 5 times we've had the Advanced Auto Parts Clash, leading into what is going to be a stellar Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Speed Weeks at Daytona, presented by Advent Health. The movement of the stages are going. The crews are thinning out. Just the critical crew members are on pit road with their machines. This test session will be 25 laps in duration, then a break, then 50 laps to the finish to determine indeed who will win the Advanced Auto Parts Clash and pull into Gatorade Victory Lane. Who do you have your money on, fans? We're getting close to race time at Daytona. The season is here.
And now, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome your Grand Marshal, United States Army Master Sergeant George Vera.
Drivers, start your engines. himself. But here's the frustration.
It's all about show me the money.
From Daytona International Speedway, it's the clash of 2019 for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. 20 of the winningest and the fastest, and last year's playoff drivers are set to go. The ceiling has lifted. We had some light showers earlier, not anymore. 68 degrees, a light breeze, track temp 74. Going to be a good afternoon of racing and the first NASCAR checkered flag of Speed Weeks 2019. Well, Darrell, no pool, no pets, no points, no problem. How are you going to run this race?
Well, it's kind of a fun race. A lot of times you try things in this race, but you get to knock the rust off. You get to draft with people. You get to race. You get to make some pit stops. You get to try your strategy out. I just always liked it because there was nothing but money involved. And I kind of like that.
Jeff, you've won this twice. What do you learn for next Sunday? Is it about the money and the bragging rights, or is it about getting ready for the 500? This is a race of bold moves.
It really is, Mike. I mean, yes, you can learn some things because this is the only time these cars and these drivers are going to be on track in these conditions during the day until the Daytona 500 because the duels are at night. But you said it best, checkered flag. That's it. That's all this race is all about. So you're going to see some bold moves to get that trophy and that checkered flag.
Sometimes those moves get a little too bold. We'll see. Paul Menard will start from the pole for the third time in his 5 starts. And Kyle Busch, the 2012 winner. That's your front row. They drew for positions. Brad Keselowski, last year's winner, and Ryan Newman, his first ride in the number 6 for Jack Roush. Alex Bowman finished third in his only Clash start 2 years ago. Kevin Harvick, a 3-time winner, all with Richard Childress Racing, now with Stewart-Haas, looking for his first checker with them. Joey Logano, the winner in 2017, and Ryan Blaney driving for Team Penske, who won the Clash the last 2 years. Austin Dillon finished 5th in this race last year, and Daniel Suarez in his first ride for Stewart-Haas Racing. Jamie McMurray, twice a Clash runner-up in his final try at this event. And Martin Truex Jr., runner-up in 2015. It's his first race with Joe Gibbs Racing. Jimmie Johnson, the 2005 Clash winner, and Kyle Larson, who had a best finish of 4th in this event 3 years ago. Clint Boyer's looking for his first top 5 finish in the Clash. Chase Elliott trying to win it for the first time. He'll have to do it from the back in a backup car, as will Denny Hamlin, a 3-time Clash winner. Eric Almirola, his best finish here just outside the top 5 in 2013. Kurt Busch, a winner in 2011, and Eric Jones, who won here last July in the Clash for the 2nd time. Oh, Darrell's got that radio in his hand.
Yeah,
Who you got?
Let's talk to Joey Logano. Hey, Joey Logano, it's CW here in the FS1 booth, buddy. Got a copy?
The Xfinity Garage. Yeah, I got the DW.
All right, my man. Look, you've had great success in this race. You finished 2nd, 17. You won the thing 17, 2nd last year. How do you look for today? How's that Mustang acting?
I didn't hear much of what you said about anything just about a Mustang, so hopefully this thing's good. It handled good in the draft yesterday, and that's a big piece. And qualifying earlier, I know it's a different car, but they're built fairly similar, and it showed that it had good speed as well by itself. So hope it's got the speed to make the moves and complete the passes if you have to lead the pack or get out front. But also got the handle and make the aggressive moves that you have to do in this Clash to be able to win it. So I feel good about it. Feel good about my race team. Feel good about my race car, and we're ready to fire away.
All right, brother. And how about that spotter? How much do you depend on him in this race?
A whole bunch. More here than anywhere else. We work on this a lot in the speedway racing, and being able to be on the same page together, understand what he sees and what I'm thinking, and try to communicate the best we can to make the decisions I need to make as quick as possible. And sometimes it's best if he makes the decision. So this is a good race to just kind of knock the rust off, get back in the boat again, and grab a trophy at the end if we can.
All right, brother. We'll get up on that Mustang and ride, and we'll be watching.
All right, his spotter will be TJ Majors for the 2nd year in a row, working with Joey Logano. Boy, Jeff, it seems like half the field for this race are Fords.
Yeah, let's talk to the Ford that's right next to Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick. Hey, Kevin, this is Jeff up in the Fox Sports booth. You got me?
10-4, buddy.
Well, man, as you know, this is a wild race and not a lot of give and take out there. We've already seen in practice how that's playing out right in front of you, as a matter of fact. So how can you avoid that in today's race, or can you?
Yeah, I think you just got to be aggressive and try to just play the odds. You know when you come to these deals, you got a 50-50 chance, sometimes worse, of finishing the race. So we're going to be aggressive and try to stay up front and see if we can't get a good handle on what our Busch Beer Cardican Ford is going to do today, and try to start gathering notes for the week. So as you know, it's important to start building that notebook for next week, and with the races next Thursday at night, it'll be a lot different than what we have on Sunday.
All right, and you know, we talk about how every decision is so critical in this race. You talked about making some bold moves. Anything you learned late in this race last year? You were close to winning it with one move, but didn't quite work out. Anything you learned last year that, or in practice, that can get you that fourth Clash win?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think you want to be in control of the race. Coming to the checkered, and hopefully have some good friends behind you.
All right, buddy. Well, we're looking forward to it. Have some fun.
Thanks, man.
20 cars rolling with 1 lap to go before we go green. Here's Matt Yoakum.
Mike, Saturday night, Kyle Busch took his 3-year-old son, Braxton, to a local trampoline park to burn off a little bit of energy. Unfortunately for Kyle, a kid cut him off, and he double bounced Kyle, and Kyle had a severe rollover on his right ankle. A lot of ice last night. He had his game-ready therapy machine shipped down this morning, which he still had from that accident 4 years ago here at Daytona. A lot of therapy. He told me, yes, he's got a limp. Yes, it's really sore, and he's thankful we're at Daytona and not Sonoma. Vince Welsh?
Well, 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson is never far from the spotlight, especially after his off-season split with crew chief Chad Knaus. Well, Jimmie's desire to win is as fierce as ever. He assures us of that at every opportunity, but he's working with a rookie Cup crew chief now in Kevin Meendering. Meendering says the expectations and the standards are still high, but he conceded it's nice to start with a non-points race, not near as much pressure. It's a nice dress rehearsal, Larry McReynolds.
Yeah, Vince, it's a non-points race, but it is a short race, 75 laps, and we know we have a caution at lap 25, and that's going to be some interesting strategy when we get that caution. Let's take a look at our race analysis right now. We're going to go pit road speed at 55 miles per hour. The fuel window is about 46 to 48 laps, as Mike mentioned. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin to the rear, backup cars. One thing we're going to see and hear a lot about today is side drafting. It's always a big deal here at Daytona. Now let's use one of our forward aero animations. As you see the car approaching that car trying to pass it, it moves up against it. What it does, it dumps air on the spoiler and in that left rear wheel well that it's trying to pass. So what you appears is that car that was doing the pass and picked up speed, but indeed what happened, he slowed the speed of that car down by adding drag. Guys, Brad Keselowski starting third is a master at side drafting.
Thank you, Larry. Paul Menard, who's crew chief, Greg Irwin drew the pole in the draw held yesterday for starting positions for the Clash, has elected to start on the inside lane.
And right behind him, Brad Keselowski, he's not going to know how to even get this race started. He started all the way in the back to win this race a year ago.
Pace car is in, and here they come. For the first NASCAR green flag of Speed Weeks, the Clash of 19 is underway. Kyle Busch leads from the outside, drops low to lead lap 1.
It didn't take him long to go 3 wide. Martin Truex Jr. showing some aggressive moves going into turn 1 and 2 to take that 3 wide move to the outside.
Yeah, I thought Paul Menard's decision to start on the inside with Keselowski behind him would pay dividends, but that 18 car shot to the lead, and that's going to be hard to get around him.
Menard peeks out from behind Kyle Busch. Here comes the 21, the Wood Brothers Ford, and Keselowski looks to the outside of him.
That looked easy.
Yeah, it did. I was
Go
gonna say-
right by him.
I was going to say, Paul Menard showed some muscle here early on.
Wow. Paul was tough. That 21 car, Paul Menard, was tough in practice.
Daniel Suarez, the red-black 41, in the middle. Third in line.
We saw these cars dancing around a lot here a year ago, dancing around a lot in the draft yesterday with that spoiler so low. I'm curious to see how long it's going to take these cars to start moving around here in this draft today.
Kyle Busch went from the lead to 8th in half a lap.
Yep.
And the reason that happened is because so many chose that outside lane. I don't know if they just preferred that, liked who they were following, but as soon as they stayed in line, Kyle Busch had nobody helping him out, and he's still going backwards.
Yeah, and don't you know, Keselowski tried to make a move in the 2 car, tried to make a move on Paul Menard in that 21 car, but didn't make it, and now he's falling in behind Paul Menard, and looks like he's content to ride right there for the time being.
You see Kevin Harvick, you see Austin Dillon, both of those guys. I didn't think I'd see this happening this early where they're lined up in that outside lane, and that just creates a freight train for you on the bottom.
Kevin Harvick is alone on the inside, and almost the entire field went past.
Just surprising to see that happen so early. We saw that happen to Kevin Harvick in the late stages of this race a year ago because he was trying to go for second or go for the lead, but this time it's just that outside lane lined up so quick.
Mike, this is almost like driver orientation. Right now you're trying to dissecting your car. It needs a little of this, it needs a little of that. He's talking to the crew chief, all these guys are, because, hey, I didn't expect them to all be up around the top in the first 4 or 5 laps either.
So 15-car lead draft, then a little gap to the final 5. Jeff, why are they running up on the rim? Up on the top of the racetrack.
Yeah, you know, to me it just seems like an easier way to protect. You know, you're always worried about somebody maybe getting that outside lane going into the turn and getting to the outside. You don't want to get sidetracked and that suck you around. So what you do is you run that high line, force them to go to the inside, and force them to have 2 or 3 or 4 cars follow along.
And believe it or not, Mike, it's a lot easier to run up high like that because the car's not, you know, you don't bind the car up, you don't put it in such a, you don't get it out of shape like you do when you're trying to hug the bottom. So it's a little easier up there, and it's obviously working.
5 complete this time by 4 Fords, 5 Fords, and Alex Bowman Chevrolet in the top half dozen.
And the other thing I would add to that, Mike and Daryl, is it really is dictated by that leader. If that leader in the second place car run that high line and they stay up there and commit to it, it makes it very difficult for those to work together to get a big enough group to pass them on the inside.
And Mike, when you're single file like this, if you're Brad Keselowski running second there, if you pull out to go and you don't make it, look where you're going to end up. You're going to end up about 15th.
Back there where Eric Almirola is, 16th, 17th.
And
Eric Jones
trying to make a move on the bottom. Going to try to squeeze in that hole that does not exist because his teammate, we can say that this year, Joe Gibbs Racing, Martin Truex Jr. filled that gap.
But you see what happened to Eric. I mean, he thought he had a run. He made it. He got down on the bottom. He's all by himself. And where's he going?
Oh, he's going to run all right, but
straight to the back.
No help. And look at the speed differential, almost 10 miles per hour when you're not in the draft.
He's going to try to get into that gap if he can, but no, Eric Almirola is going to fill it.
That was, you know, Spotter did a nice job right there of telling him maybe, but he didn't go for it.
I think he could have pushed the issue, but wasn't worth it. Here goes Ryan Blaney stepping out of line.
We listened in on Austin Dillon in 18th.
Smoke in here, pretty heavy, just a little bit. I don't know what it's coming from. Wind. 10-4, just keep an eye on it, keep it posted.
And usually in that case, Daryl, the first thing you do is try to smell if it's rubber burning or whether it's oil burning. If it's a tire rub, weather or rain in the area.
Yeah, Mother Nature. It's the second time today. Turns 1 and 2 have had a bit of moisture falling. 8 laps complete. Kind of a very light sprinkle there. Paul Menard has led 6 of 7 laps completed. Kyle Busch led the first one. Well, it doesn't show up on the radar, but we've been fighting these little pesky light showers and mist for a good part of the day. And right now, turns 1 and 2 have a little bit of rain, and we can look to the east where a storm system is blowing in offshore. Most of it to the south of the speedway, but a little bit of it right here. Enough so that these slick, treadless tires aren't going to gain any purchase on that 31-degree banking in turn 2 when it's damp. So they're going to pull the cars down pit road to what we hope will be a brief hold and get out there with track drying operations and get us back to a raceable surface. Paul Menard has led 7 of the 8 laps so far. Started front row. Kyle Busch led the first lap.
Let's talk to Brad Keselowski. What do you say? See what he thinks. Hey, Brad Keselowski, it's DW. You got me, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Man, you didn't run long enough to get you water hot. What'd you figure out there in that 8 laps?
I think the Mustang's killer. It's going to be a good 2019. It's really fast here, DW, and just trying to work with Paul here a little bit with my Miller Lite forward and trying to make sure we're in spot to control the race the best possible.
Yeah, I saw you make a little bit of move. I think you might have thought you could get by Paul, but that 21 looked like it's pretty strong. You fell in behind him, and you're happy to ride there for a while?
Yeah, I probably had a run to take him 3 wide, but it's I can't show all my moves just yet, DW. There's a lot of show left to go.
Hey, now, we're watching, and we want you to show us your moves when it counts. So good luck, buddy, and we'll be watching.
Thanks, DW.
I like that. He can't show us all his moves right now.
Well, of course not.
Yeah.
So Keselowski currently second.
Yeah, while we got this time, let's see if we can't dial up the 18 of Kyle Busch. Hey, Kyle, this is Jeff up in the Fox Sports booth. You got me?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
Well, it's going pretty good, man. Pretty interesting so far in just these 8 laps. You know, you had the lead there. Looked like you got a great start. And then the next thing we know, you're getting shuffled back to 10th. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we did get a good start and got to the lead there, and then was just trying to see what was happening behind me with those guys. Obviously, the 21, the 2, those guys are pretty fast, and gave me an opportunity to be able to work on my exit at 2. I thought, you know, they were right with me, and then all of a sudden, they were blowing my doors off. So they must have gotten a really good run, gotten tight together off of 2, and got to my outside down a backstretch, and there was no blocking that amount of speed, especially that early.
Yeah, no, a bunch of cars chose to get in that outside lane pretty early. Did you anticipate that happening? I mean, I was pretty surprised to see them all get lined up that quickly and run that outside lane.
I was too, yeah. I didn't figure it would single file out that quick. You know, normally it takes a good 8 or 10 laps, and it seemed like it was pretty single file pretty quick. So it's unfortunate, but I feel like our car is driving really good. It handles pretty good. Doesn't handle very good in the wet, but overall, besides that, we've got a really good M&M's Camry, so we just got to get back out here and get back at it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Just as you fell back there and you got in the line in 10th, what was the car driving like? You know, we've heard and seen where these cars are pretty loose and a little uncomfortable getting into the corner, maybe on the exit of the corner, wind affecting them. Any of those things that were bothering you out there?
No, my car was pretty stable. Actually, you know, falling back to 10th or whatever we're at here might have been a blessing in disguise with just not being out front and being the leader when the rain started to come down. We came off of turn 2 there that last time under speed, and I looked down the backstretch, and you couldn't see turn 3 through the mist. You know, it was really heavy down the back, and everybody started pedaling it and getting out of the gas through 3 and 4 to kind of give each other a little bit of slide room to make sure we wouldn't crash everybody and everything. And then the caution came out. So fortunately, everybody was all good there.
All right, well, it sounds like they're going to let you guys get out. Don't go far, though. I think this thing's going to drive, and you're going to get back out there right away.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to hope so. Thanks, man.
Yeah. The ceiling is lifting quite a bit and quite quickly. What was a heavy cloud cover down low now looks much more promising. So we'll come back and catch up with some more drivers as we are just 9 laps complete in the Clash of 2019 at Daytona. Welcome back to Daytona, where last year Brad Keselowski roared to victory in the Clash. Jimmie Johnson trying to finish his first Clash in 7 years. Everything was fine to the last lap. Into the turn 3 wall, and Keselowski got to celebrate. He went to victory lane in his Ford Fusion. This year it's the Mustang, and here's today's Ford Performance Track Facts. Bill Elliott and Dale Jarrett are the 3 drivers who have won the Clash and the Daytona 500 in the same year in a Ford. under the red flag for rain with 9 laps complete. But the sky is brightening, and there's our leader, Paul Menard, in one of those new Ford Mustangs. Vince?
Well, and Paul is chatting with his crew chief, Greg Irwin, and it's interesting as Paul was doing a little bit of helmet maintenance himself, and we'll lean in here, and if we can interrupt here just a moment. We saw you doing some helmet maintenance. What are you working on there?
It's we changed visors, and my visor is too loose, so I just had to tighten it up a little bit. We're good to go.
You had to have liked the view through that visor from the front of the field. How was the car handling there at the front?
Good. I mean, it was raining pretty hard. Every lap into turn 1, the last probably 3 or 4 laps, every lap into turn 1, it'd slide and then catch. And I knew the guys behind me were in dirty air. They had a handful, and it looked like it. We kind of pulled away. But right before they threw the caution, so it shouldn't last very long. We'll get racing here quick.
In that short amount of time, able to learn much, if anything, about your car?
Just that our Ford Mustangs are really fast. Brad gave me a really good push to get us by the 18, and just kind of lined up there, trying to see what's going to happen next.
From the lead, Paul Menard. Let's go to Matt.
Hey, Vince, back mid-pack is Martin Truex Jr. in the 19 car. So how hard was it raining?
It's hard enough that we had to stop. I mean, we all went into 3, like, just sliding up the track, and I'm sure everybody was screaming on radio. It was really, really wet. Guys in the booth know that these tires don't do too good on a wet track, so yeah, we got through it at least, but a Bass Pro Tracker Toyota feels good. I feel like it's got a lot of speed in it. Just got single file so quick, it's hard to really know what you can do, but hopefully it'll get racy again here on a restart.
Hearing a lot of different comments when we were under yellow before we pulled back down on pit road. A number of drivers just talking about how there was nothing on the bottom that worked. Everybody went to the high side and went to the high side quick.
Yeah, it went there quicker than I think a lot of guys expected. That's just kind of how this package is. You know, if the leaders want to make that train go to the top, then it's hard to do anything about it. And then if you don't get there quick enough, everybody just freight trains you. So I don't know. It's the leader kind of dictates it, or the first 3 or 4 cars if they get together, which we see. I think it's a handful of Fords up there. They made their mind up real quick to do that, and that kind of dictates the rest of the field. So restarts mix it up, and we're going to get one of those here. So hopefully we can make some hay and get some spots.
Thanks, Mart. Guys.
Thank you, Matt. 5 of the first 6 right now are Fords. Truex is the first Toyota in 7th. Now everybody's parked on pit road. Kevin Harvick elected to stay in his car. Jamie Mack's car was under a bit of repair, and you won't see this every day. A wedge wrench in the back of the car of Chase Elliott.
I just love the look on Alan Gustafson's face, because I think he walked up to the car knowing what he could or couldn't do, but he looks like he just got caught doing something.
Well, our rules analyst, Larry Mack.
Well, special scenarios for special races. This is a special race. And you can, just like the All-Star race, you can work on your car under red flag. And remember, that 9 car, you're seeing the same thing with Jamie McMurray's 40 car, but that 9 car was seeing the very first laps when they dropped the green flag. So I'm sure, I saw Alan Gustafson, the crew chief, looking under the car. Evidently, they were off a little bit on their heights, and they were bottoming out. But what they did there is perfectly legal in a special event, a non-points race. It's spelled out in the entry blank.
Woo, I'm glad to know that, Larry.
Completely clear to you, huh, Larry?
Yeah. Bold print.
You're glad to know it. Jeff's glad. I'm glad. And that guy right there on our screen is really glad to know it.
All right, Vince.
Yeah, and it certainly got the attention of Alex Bowman when he saw that wrench in the back window as well. Hey, you know, you got a dirt background. You're used to slipping and sliding around. A little water on the track. I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, they ran us for a while. I was like, guys, it's not like spitting, like it's pouring. But no, glad we all were kind of smart enough to space out and not tear some cars up. But Nationwide 88 car seems decent so far. Really hard to say, running 9 laps or whatever, but have to wait and see. I think it'll be pretty sporty.
What do you look to get out of this day? I mean, non-points race, I mean, obviously everybody wants to win, but in the big picture of things, what do you want to get out of today?
Honestly, just experience and knowledge and a good notebook for the 500 really is the biggest thing. You know, I kind of took a year and a half off there for a while, and speedway racing has changed and continues to evolve, and you know, just knowing how to take runs and use them when you're wanting to be aggressive and when to be aggressive and everything. So hopefully we can get out front, lead a bunch of laps, and bring home a trophy, but got to learn as much as we can as well, and hopefully it pays off on our 500 car.
For sure. Look forward to it. Thanks, Alex. Mike?
Track drying operations in the backstretch, turn 4, and here in the Trioval near start finish. The jet dryers and air titans making quick work of this short rainstorm.
What?
Building Homes for Heroes supports veterans injured while serving the country in Iraq and Afghanistan. Earlier today, Advance Auto Parts partnered with Building Homes for Heroes to gift a new home mortgage-free to Sergeant First Class James Pistoli and his family. Nice gesture by Advance Auto Parts, title sponsor of this year's Clash at Daytona.
Mike.
The brothers Busch talking it over. They currently are 8th and 10th under this red flag with 9 laps complete. Matt?
Mike, back-to-back races for Jamie McMurray today here in Daytona. First, tell me about your morning.
Yeah, it started like at 7:30. Jimmie and Landon Castle and I, and I think some others all ran the Daytona half marathon. So started at 7:30, ended at about 9, and then the driver's meet and then qualifying. So it's been a fairly productive day.
How'd you finish?
I ended up P4, so I was pretty excited about that. I mean,
is that in your age group?
No, that was overall. It was really windy today, and you don't appreciate that. I feel like in the car, when you're the engine, you get a better feel for that. I literally drafted this guy all the way to the beach because it was a headwind on the way out, and then somewhat of a tailwind on the way back. So that was nice.
Now you're back in a race car, but running the half marathon. Have you done anything to recoup the hydration that you lost in that event?
I know that you know the answer to this, and the answer is that I actually went to the Advent Health Infield Care Center, and I got a couple of IVs because I could tell I was dehydrated and knew this was going to happen today. And if you've ever had an IV, you know that you don't really feel the relief until an hour or two later when you have to use the restroom about every 2.5 minutes. So the lap 9 caution could not have come at a better time for me. And when we came down pit road, I know you heard me. I was like, can we get out? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, I'm getting out. I was like, because I have to use the restroom real quick.
Hey, it's great to see him back and his number that he originally started Cup with when he filled in for Sterling. And he's got his original spotter, Lauren Ranier, guys.
Great reunion there for Jamie Mack here in the Clash and in the 500. And then he comes to work for Fox Sports. Vince.
Drivers getting ready to get back in their cars, and Ryan Newman in the 6. Good to see you in the 6. It's a little bit tough to get used to, but I think we're getting there. What's your impression early on? You tried to give Kyle Busch a nice little push there to get things started.
Yeah, as much as pushing helps you. I had Kevin pushing me from behind, and I was all over Kyle there, but we got enough to get up there towards the front, but never got to the total clean air, and to be the first car in line. So we'll take our Wyndham rewards forward and go back at it and see if we can move farther forward from where we are now.
How was the wet track? Was that getting your attention a little bit?
Yeah, it was wetter than I've ever been and not crashed, so that was a little bit luck in my opinion.
And speaking of crash, I know you had an incident in practice in this car, the Clash car. Everything good? You feel comfortable and confident with what you got?
Yeah, it's the same car. That's why we put the effort in to make sure that we got to roll it back on wheels and tires that didn't blow it apart. So go back at it after we have a nice cold Coke here.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, drivers to their cars. Here comes Daniel Suarez at the run. Everybody's going to climb back in. Hey, let's go racing again.
Let's go racing, boys.
Drivers getting back into their cars in addition to their belts and harnesses. They are all donning their head and neck support, the most popular of which is this, the Hans device, developed by Dr. Robert Hubbard and his brother-in-law, sports car racer Jim Downing. And now a head and neck support is worn by every driver, and everything from little Bandolero cars all the way up to the Cup Series and beyond. Robert Hubbard passed this week, but we are forever indebted to him for inventing the head and neck support, the Hans device.
Yeah, just one of the many safety devices that the drivers now are able to take advantage of. Mike, the safer barriers is certainly a big deal. The Hans device, a big deal. Those are things that have saved so many drivers' lives over the last several years.
Took some crashes that I couldn't imagine taking without that Hans device over the years. So I know I'm thankful among so many other drivers.
Kurt Busch checking to make sure that his wheel is firmly attached to the column by that quick release hub.
And that's something the crew chief or spotter will always remind you of. Check your wheel. And it's just so helpful because we've seen a couple of times when drivers put the wheel on, they think they snapped it down and it came off when they're on the track. I'm thinking of Phoenix a few years ago.
Going to be really curious to see how this front row decides to line up, because the leader has the choice. He can choose the inside lane or the outside lane, but he's got to start thinking about who's third and who's fourth, because if you put Joey Logano on the rear bumper of the 2 car and his teammate Brad Keselowski, I believe those two are going to have a big advantage of getting a nice push and getting that lead.
So if you're Paul Menard, would you rather be in front of Alex Bowman or in front of Joey Logano?
Nothing against Alex Bowman, but and Penske has a relationship with Wood Brothers. I would get in front of that 22 car. I just think he's going to be super aggressive and a really good pusher, and maybe that would give me enough of a push to get in front of Brad Keselowski, and maybe even get all 3 of us there with the Fords and Penske and Wood Brothers to get 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, if I look in my mirror and I see that 22 car, he won this thing 2 years ago. He was second in it last year. He's pretty good in restrictor plate races. I wouldn't mind having him give me a shove.
One question we've had about these new Ford Mustangs is about the rear bumper and the recess in it and how it lines up with the front bumper of the Toyota Camry and the Chevy Camaro. Is there going to be one of those recessed areas that's going to be a catch, or is it going to be easy to push and release? That's yet to be seen.
Yeah, I'm really surprised how defined this area is on the Ford Mustang and how much it indents in. And we've seen, I think they'll be fine with the Toyota Camry, as you see right here, Martin Truex Jr.'s nose. But that Chevy Camaro, we saw this last year play up, has a more of a pointed nose, just like the street car does. And I just am curious at speed, in the travels, in the corners, even on the straightaway, how that point is going to line up with that rear bumper.
Kind of with you, but that looks like that bumper's pretty high. It might hit above that.
A 21.5-minute red flag, but now cars are on track. Four cars chose to make pit stops. McMurray, Almirola, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick. They were the last 4 cars in line, so little is lost here. But Larry, by filling the car up, looking ahead to the lap 25 caution that NASCAR says they will throw, how does this change the game for them?
Well, I think a couple of things happened there, Mike, because 3 of those 4 drivers, all but Jamie McMurray, they took 4 tires, and then they packed them full of fuel. So when they do stop, and they still have to stop to make it to the end, they possibly can just do right side tires and a lot less time dumping the fuel to get to the end because they now have it full of fuel again.
Yeah, I love sometimes being at the back is an advantage because you can kind of have your own strategy, do your own thing, and it pays off at the end.
20 cars started. They're all still on the lead lap. We ran 9 laps before the brief rain shower came, but now the ceiling has lifted considerably. We can see those condos over on the beach, and it looks like this storm system is going to stay to the south of us for some time, hopefully for another 64 laps. So we talked a little bit about the Hans device invented by Dr. Robert Hubbard. That's not the only safety device available for these cars and drivers. Larry?
Yeah, NASCAR never quits looking at safety. And I go back to the wreck that Kyle Busch had here in Xfinity Series race in 2015. This led what we call a driver intrusion package, or the EVC. Everything you see highlighted in green, it's additional thick metal. Now last year, this was only mandatory at Daytona and Talladega. In 2019, for Cup and Xfinity Series, it's mandatory at every single track. Even though we know we're in a pretty good shape as far as safety, you know you never quit working on it, and that's exactly what the people at NASCAR do.
You know, Mike, that foot box has always been a bit of a spot where it never had enough protection because your feet were down in there all the time, the clutch, the brake, the gas pedal, and we never really supported or built anything around a little cocoon or whatever down there for our feet to set in to protect those in some of those hard crashes that we've seen some of these guys take. So those are great innovations and great things that just help further along the protection of these drivers.
Riding with Daniel Suarez.
I have a feeling we're going to get some nice shots out of that visor cam out of Daniel Suarez in this race today. It's nice and calm right now, but
well, he was
that way for long.
No, but you remember there for a little bit he was stuck in the middle. That's a great shot when you're stuck in the middle.
So 5 of the first 6 are Fords. That includes our front row, Menard and Keselowski. Paul Menard is elected the bottom. That puts Keselowski up top with Joey Logano. Alex Bowman Chevrolet to the inside. Then a pair of Fords for Ryan Newman, Ryan Blaney. In row 4, Truex and Busch.
One thing I noticed on the initial start, the 2 car didn't take off so hot. And the 21 to the 88 there, they both got pretty good starts. So let's see what happens here.
It'll be 12 laps until the NASCAR caution flag waves at lap 25. And then 50 more to finish this off. In the clash of 2019, Paul Menard leads them to green for the Wood brothers.
Well, there's some coordination right there. And instead, Paul Menard moves up to that high lane, already starting to see that bottom lane starting to dissipate as guys jump in the outside lane.
And it's a foursome with all his Penske teammates, Keselowski, Logano, and Ryan Blaney.
That was well orchestrated. And, you know, this just is reminiscent of Talladega last year. The Ford teams seem to be able to work together to perfection, almost better than anybody I think I've ever seen manufacturer-wise.
Wait a minute, why is Larry Mack smiling?
It's not long. You have 21.5 minutes to orchestrate a restart.
Oh.
They orchestrated that quite nicely.
Really impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4 Penske. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Ford. Kurt Busch did a really nice job sliding up in a pretty small gap there to get in that outside lane.
I tell you, that one car has always been good. I just remember how aggressive McMurray was in that one car. Kurt Busch equally as aggressive, and that car is always pretty good here.
You could actually hear him almost ride the brake a little bit as he got into turn 3 to not close that up on the back of the 6 of Ryan Newman too quickly. Almost 199 miles per hour getting into turn 3.
So Alex Bowman, who started in the second row and couldn't get out of the inside lane, Going to find himself going to the back.
I mean, I'm shaking my head up here just at how quick everybody is choosing to get in this outside lane and how fast you can go from the front row or second row all the way to the back.
And Kevin Harvick hanging out on the low side by himself.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about him just yet. You know, Harvick's one of those guys who'll play around a little bit, mess around the back. They had a pretty good pit strategy here. I think that's going to pay off when they make that call, when they had that stop at 25 laps. Let's see where it shakes out then. I always think about Kevin Harvick in the 4 cars being a thinker, and he and Rodney Childers, they got a game plan, and they kind of know what they want to do to get to where they got to go. And I don't worry too much about him right now.
The way this caution fell, or the red fell because of the rain, it's going to really work out pretty nicely for a lot of these guys, because we saw in practice it takes about 15 laps for the handling to start going away and maybe allowing you to make some moves if your car's out handling one of your other competitors. But right now, it's only going to be, what, 10, 15 laps before that caution comes out. They can come in and get tires.
And Mike, you know this. It's no surprise to see that 21 car up front.
No.
I mean, you think about the history of that 21 car and what it's done even in recent years. And Paul Menard, you put him out front in that 21 car, pretty good combination.
Paul Menard's led more laps today than in his 4 prior Clash starts combined.
Well, it didn't hurt that he started on the pole. That helped a little bit. And plus, Paul's got a pretty good record on these restrictor plate tracks.
Seven and a half laps from now, NASCAR will wave the caution flag at lap 25. That's part of the format for this race.
Martin Truex Jr. gets shuffled out.
Oh boy.
He dropped down looking for a hole in the running order up there on top. Couldn't find one. And now he's back there with Chase Elliott. So here's Truex dropping to the bottom, thinking he was going to make that pass there on Boyer.
Coulda, woulda, almost shoulda, but
boy, it's amazing how fast that gap closed up with Clint Boyer. And what that is when they run that high line, if you get a big enough run, it gives you the confidence, or at least pulls you into thinking you can make that shortcut down to the yellow line and find a gap and slide up in. And that was the risk that Mark Truex Jr. took.
This all goes back to yesterday's practice when Chase Elliott tried to jump up into a hole that closed up way too soon and 4 cars got wrecked. So everybody being a little cautious at this stage.
There's no question you have to listen to, you got to have instinct, driver yourself, but you also got to listen to that spotter, and he's got to be on his game in a race like this.
Here is Kurt Busch running in 6th behind Ryan Newman, ahead of younger brother Kyle.
Still all single file. Yeah, so far you got 18, you got 11, so they're going to leave us when they do go. Who's behind the 11? 41. 41, then 3.
Kurt Busch sizing up the competition.
He's a thinker. I'm telling you, you know, when he's driving that race car, he's doing a lot of planning.
You'd be amazed, the good drivers in the draft here at Daytona, how far back they're looking. They're looking with their mirror 4 or 5 rows back to try to figure out when the next move is going to be made. It's like a chess match.
Vince?
The 21 of Paul Menard, as you guys have noted, is a good restrictor plate racer. In fact, top 10 the last 2 Daytona 500s. Very comfortable at the front. He told me during the break for the rain, they did put a little tape on the nose of that 21 to help the handling a bit. And he's also working with a new spotter this year. Joey Meyer is the spotter for Paul Menard in that 21 car. And interestingly enough, Meyer used to be the spotter for the driver right behind Menard, and that's the 2 of Brad Keselowski. Coleman Presley now spotting for Keselowski. But this is a big day for that combination of driver, spotter, crew chief. Got to shake the rust off and get used to working together.
All right, as they come back, it'll be 4 laps until a caution flag. Larry, do you wait for the caution to pit, or do you pit before the yellow comes out?
Well, I definitely think we're going to see an array of strategy there. I think once we get to lap 23, which will be 2 to go, Mike, we possibly will see drivers start to hit pit road, because when that caution comes, we're right on the threshold of being able to make it to the end on fuel. Now, if you run it all the way to lap 25, you just have to make sure you're on pit road before they hit the plunger for the caution, which would close pit road. I definitely think 1 to go, maybe even at lap 25, we're going to see some drivers hit pit road.
Yeah, Mike, the problem you have and the concern you have as any driver is you get run over from behind. You've got to, everybody's got to be on the same page. 21's got to tell the 2, 2's got to tell the 22. It's got to pass word down. I'm going to pit on the 25th lap, so stand by.
3 laps to that lap 25 caution flag. Last year was huge for Ford Performance in NASCAR. Winning the Cup championship with Joey Logano, first time in a long time, even longer since they've been the manufacturer's champion. And they won 19 races for the first time in 2 decades. That's a little more than half. And this year with a new body, the Mustang replacing the Fusion, and continued high hopes right now. Ford with the first 5 positions ahead of Kurt Busch's Chevy and Kyle Busch's Toyota.
Mike, I've always said, you give me a Robert Yates engine, now it's Doug Yates and the Roush. You give me that engine, and I can sacrifice a little bit in my car because they make up for it in horsepower.
I think we've seen in the history of NASCAR, it's never just one thing. It's always the combination. And right now, it just seems like Ford, their teams, power plant, all those things seem to be aligned.
Speaking of aligned, Kevin Harvick is aligned way toward the back. We wondered if maybe he has some contrary strategy, so we listened in.
Right now we need probably 3 seconds of fuel. Most of them guys will put 2 tires on, which is about 7 seconds. So you could pass most of doing fuel only. It just depends on if you think the track position will be worth it or not. It's going to go crazy when they start racing.
That tells me, so last year, a year ago, this team chose to stay out when that caution came out, get 4 tires, and have a little bit better handling race car or 4 tires when they went back to racing. And it sounds like that's what Kevin Harvick's sort of leaning towards right there. But I don't know. I think as far back as they are and how tough it's been to get to the front or stay there, I can see them taking advantage of that more fuel on board.
Well, now's the time. 2 laps to go. Per Larry's strategy, come this time or wait till the yellow flag.
Well, you could coming to lap 25, but you better be one of the drivers right at the front.
Well, you're going to know when they come because Paul Menard's going to drop down low through 3 and 4.
No takers.
No.
And we begin the 25th lap.
Like when you're lined up like that, it's almost too dangerous. I know it looks simple, but you come off turn 4, you run 190 miles an hour, and you're going to whoa up and knock your over from behind. I see it time and time again. I think that's the best strategy, what they just did.
Because you have to get down to 55 miles an hour for pit road.
I'm seeing a lot of action in the Toyota pits down there right now. So we'll see what happens on this lap.
You can already see them starting to move to that low line. These guys are coming. If not all of them, a lot of them.
Track is still green.
First 7 cars.
And it will be until David Hoots calls for the caution. Wow. Here comes all but 5 cars to pit road.
What a risky move by Denny Hamlin, making some spots up on the outside.
Look at that. Like
Paul Menard leads them down with Keselowski. Matt.
And Kyle Busch's guys jump off the wall. Cam Wall going to work on the right front. TJ Ford pumping a hat. The car is up. Harvick also farther up pit road. They were talking about weather being a concern as well, part of their strategy, Vince.
And the 2 of Brad Keselowski, right sides only for Keselowski as he gets off with some gasoline, and the 22 left sides.
So caution is on the racetrack. The first 5 drivers on your pylon on the left of the screen stayed on the racetrack to take the caution flag. Boy, long stop for Eric Jones. Putting some tape on the nose of his Toyota. But we're under caution. He's in no rush now.
Yeah, no, you're not out of this race. No matter if you come back here last, you're still not out of this race by any means.
And what makes that decision a lot easier for those teams. Is unlike when we have stage racing next Sunday in the Daytona 500, where they throw the caution when the leader gets to about the start-finish line. In this scenario, they're not throwing the caution until they're on the back straightaway on that lap.
So Austin Dillon, Alex Bowman, Jamie McMurray, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex.
I would say Kevin Harvick will get his wish for 4 tires, because if you stayed out, no question, come get 4 tires.
Well, the speeding police have their first ticket written for 2019. Eric Almirola too fast in section 10, and Daniel Suarez team was over the wall too soon.
Well, but you know, that's part of this whole clash race in itself, Mike. Your pit crew hadn't made any pit stops. You haven't done a lot of drafting. You get the cobwebs out.
Well,
get them out today.
But here's what this is going to be a big hit to Eric Almirola, and I tell you why. Because Eric Almirola, he played that strategy we talked about where they came in and got fuel under the caution the last time, and so he didn't have to be on pit road for very long. They took 2 tires, I believe, and only 3 seconds of fuel, like we heard Rodney Childers talk about. And what was he going to be when this thing went back green? The leader.
So you're going to watch the 41 on the inside. There's the pointer. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, way early.
And the rule is you can't go over until he's 1 pit box away.
That looked like Spaghetti Junction with everybody coming there at one time.
Now you hear Suarez shutting the car off and coasting, not being miserly, but trying to save gas, because this green flag run is going to be right on the edge of how far they can make it on 1 tank of fuel.
And Mike, that's kind of a habit a driver gets into. Anytime he's under caution, whether he's trying to save fuel or not, it's just what the drivers have programmed themselves to do. It does save fuel. It could pay off as a benefit somewhere down the road, but it's just one of those things that drivers learn to do.
Another thing it does, with as much tape as they run on the nose, it actually cools the engine down, especially at slow speeds.
Now, if you had to buy it, that Sunoco race fuel is about $10, $11 a gallon.
I think I know why the 20 was fixing their nose on pit road. Yeah. Probably contacted the 3 of Austin Dillon.
Was that the 3 or the 8?
You stop. So I want you to watch what Denny Hamlin does right here. He knows everybody's coming to pit road. They're all checking up, staying on the bottom. He goes the high line like he's not even going to come to pit road, and he has a clear shot, able to brake late. Look how many positions he made up. Fantastic job being aggressive.
Yeah, he passed 4 cars. And there you saw Jones trying to do the same.
Well, now here's where it gets tricky. He's got to get to his stall. You saw with Ryan Blaney and even his teammate Kyle Busch, not going to make it easy on him getting into that stall, but he did a great job doing that also.
But Jeff, who is sort of notorious for getting speeding penalties?
Obviously, he likes to be aggressive on pit road.
He's usually pretty aggressive. We're talking about Denny Hamlin.
So the crew, the teams, the 5 teams that did not stop on lap 25 will come in now that pit road is open. Dillon, Bowman, McMurray, Harvick, and Truex.
And here's what Kevin Harvick and Rodney Childers are banking on. You know, we're going to have, 45, 46 laps. And if this thing goes green or they never come back down pit road, those 4 tires that he has now, he should have the better handling race car than those others that only took 2.
I think that's going to be huge. We haven't seen these cars run, that many green flag laps. We don't know how the handle's going to affect, how they're going to change as they get into the latter stages of these runs. It could be interesting.
Here's Matt.
Middle of the screen, Alex Bowman already in his box. They were talking about possibly making a chassis adjustment. Don't see one yet. McMurray up at the top. Right side's going on. A little bit slow on the right rear. Had to get another pump on the jack so the changer could get that tire in. Vince.
4 tire change for Austin Dillon. Also got some rear end damage, but they're not going to address that. It doesn't look like it's going to affect their performance any. Packing it full of fuel and off for Dillon.
Cosmetic damage.
Might help him.
Pit stops are complete. That is the only scheduled caution flag in the clash of 2019 at Daytona. Going to go one more lap before they put them back under green. Kyle Busch, Paul Menard, now that Almirola has served his penalty and gone to the back.
And how did Kyle Busch become the leader of this race, Larry?
Well, what's going to be interesting is Ryan Blaney, fuel only for that 12 car. But you're right, Jeff, when I look up at the front, really the one driver that took 4 tires is that 18 car. So they had a well of a pit stop.
Well, now he's falling back, so maybe not. I don't know what's going on there.
But, guys, time and time again, particularly last year, who has the best pit crew? The 18. So, I mean, I don't know what he's doing now. I'm not sure.
Well, you know what I think may have happened? We were trying to listen into some radio communication during that break, and I'm wondering if some cars shut down saving fuel when they're leaving pit road, and maybe Kyle Busch.
Well, whatever it is, Jeff, he's not the beneficiary of it because he was up on the front row.
Well, he looked like he was going to be
on the front row a minute ago, and now he slid back a little bit.
And we're going to check this over with NASCAR officials and look at a couple of replays and sort things out.
22, 18, 1, 14, 20.
What? 10-4. We'll take the 14 out of there, hitting multiple times. At the front, we need the 21, 12, 2, 4, then the 6, then the 42, 48.
Sorting out the restart lineup for us.
Did he say 4?
Yeah, I thought he said 4 also.
He said 4, but gosh.
Yeah, he stayed out, so I know that's not the case.
He's way back.
He'll be back with those final 5 plus the penalty cars, Suarez and Almirola. And then Boyer came in and made an extra pit stop right at the end of this caution period.
If we run another caution lap, Kyle Busch will be last. he was sitting pretty about a lap ago.
What confuses this is these guys were leaving pit road and all mixed up when the caution came out, and immediately the field is frozen. I think that's where the confusion is.
Just like any other caution flag, the field is frozen and scored at the last scoring loop that each driver passed.
And with them leaving pit road, a lot of them still going on the blend line. That gets a little tough to sort out.
Yeah, and I think that's what happened, Larry, is when that field was frozen, the caution came out, those other guys kind of knew that was the case. And I think Kyle Busch just went ahead and kept on rolling, thinking that he could get those positions, but the field had already been frozen at that time.
All right, so we know how this sorts out. The Penske Fords and then everybody else.
That's right.
Yes.
So far, that's the way it's been. And that 21's right back, right where he started. So, and that's been a pretty steamy car so far. You got Blaney up there, you got Hamlin up there, and now there's Keselowski. I mean, and there's Newman. Got all the Fords right back here together.
Larson's just steadily moving his way forward also. He's going to be in that 5th position.
And up on point, it's still Wood Brothers Racing, despite the passing of Glenn Wood, the family patriarch, at the age of 93, because his 2 sons, Len and Eddie, have run the race team now for many years with help from Uncle Leonard, the another Hall of Famer, Leonard Wood, the inventor of the modern choreographed pit stop.
Now that was what I call a bird's eye view.
It's almost as good a seat as we have.
Yeah.
All right, lights are out on the Camaro safety car, so it looks like we've got it right with Paul Menard and Ryan Blaney on the front row. Denny Hamlin and Brad Keselowski, row 2. Kyle Larson, Ryan Newman, Jimmie Johnson and his teammate Chase Elliott. Row 5, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano. Eric Jones and Kurt Busch. Harvick and Truex, Dillon and Bowman, Suarez, McMurray, Almirola, and Boyer.
Well, we know how Denny Hamlin got up there. He did that getting on pit road.
Yes, he did, and on pit road.
Picked up 4 or 5 positions getting onto pit road.
Oh, my, he was, yeah.
So I'm going to be really anxious to see how these Fords of Menard, Blaney, and Keselowski orchestrate this restart. We saw how great a job they did the last time. Now Menard has chosen that outside lane. Is he going to try to get in front of Ryan Blaney and get all 3 of those cars lined up?
Yeah, I think Paul I think they'll take off side by side. I think Blaney will let him down in front of him, and the 21 will be back in front. That's what I think.
Coming around to complete lap 31 or 32 rather. Pace car is in. Into the restart zone and green flag.
Drop down.
I don't know if you want to drop down, Darrell. I know he's going to, but we've seen that outside lane be such an advantage, and I think that's what Denny Hamlin's hoping for right here.
It's funny, I noticed that too, Carl, on every restart. He's a little sluggish on initial, but then he gets going.
3 wide twice. Larson and Bowman in the middle.
Big push to the rear bumper of Jimmie Johnson from Kyle Busch. Watch that outside lane just get a big head of steam here going into turn 3.
Blaney's going to need some help.
Yeah, I think Menard was indecisive there. He wasn't sure if he ought to stay with Blaney or jump up there and block the 11 car.
Well, and I think Denny Hamlin, he just loves breaking those cars up and getting into the mix, and he's in it for sure.
3 wide, and in the middle, Larson is coming. Larson with Bowman drops down to help the 12 of Blaney.
Larson he has a driver's mentality. He's always able to find the opening, find the hole, find the spot.
Well, that's the first time we've seen somebody stuck in the middle and not lose ground.
Yeah, it seemed like there's a little bit more of a line formed on the bottom. Still is, but still not as organized, that outside lane. I think you're going to start to see that outside lane prevail unless Denny Hamlin wants to try to get that lead from Paul Menard.
Well, there wasn't really anybody close enough to Denny Hamlin to help him on the inside. So
no, because he knows where Keselowski's going to go if he tries to make a move.
And just don't sell that 21 car short. I tell you, he is doing a whale of a job, and that car is fast. I think you asked any driver, Jeff, you know this. I want to dictate the race. Let me set the pace. Let me be out front and decide what line's going to move and what line's not going to go. And that's what Menard is doing an outstanding job of right now.
And I think that's why you see the leader be so aggressive blocking those lines, because not only can you control the race a lot more, your car handles a lot better up there.
And look at this. It took 3 laps for that outside lane to form up, and the inside lane, led by Ryan Blaney, go completely backwards to where Blaney is now back to 15th.
And the other thing, look at the tape on the grill of the 21 car. Because he is out front and the car that is getting all the fresh air, he can run a little bit more tape on that car and make it a little bit faster. It's got a couple extra pieces of tape on there. I think that's really helping that car.
They're going to cut down a little bit on the drag, give it a little bit more front downforce. Sound like maybe he was dealing with a little bit of a tight condition. So yeah, it benefits him all the way around.
40 laps to go, 100 miles to settle the clash of 2019.
Yeah, Mike, this will get good after about 15 or 20 laps. When the tires are starting to kind of go away a little bit, then you're going to find out who's got the best Hamlin race car. Can you stay wide open all the way around the track?
And GW, to your point, as we run here and those tires start to wear down a little bit and that fuel load starts to go away, you're going to see cars starting to check up a little bit, getting in the corner because their car just isn't quite secure enough. And as soon as they do that, somebody's going to try to take advantage of that bottom lane and slide up in front of them.
Jeff, we're running 200. Look, that car's going 200 miles an hour down that back straightaway into turn 3. When the handle goes away a little bit and that thing starts getting a little sideways getting in, you almost always have to lift a little. And Mike, because these are restricted engines, it's momentum. You get them going, you get them wound up, you keep your foot in them, they will run. But if you have to get out of the throttle and get back in the throttle, you lose so much momentum.
Halfway in the clash of 2019, Paul Menard has now led 33 of 37 laps. Well, Mother Nature has the lead again in the Clash of 2019 at Daytona. Rain showers, pesky that they are here in Central Florida, have put us under caution once again, but this has not been an all single file affair. One driver in particular who got penalized during the caution flag has been making some bold moves and moving his way up the ladder. That's Daniel Suarez. How'd he get it done? Larry.
Yeah, we'll go to our forward animation. We said this in the pre-race. Remember, this driver trying to make that pass, he goes up against the left side of that car. He dumps a bunch of air on that rear spoiler and in the left rear wheel well. And right here, Jeff Gordon, this is what it looks like for rear. There, Daniel Suarez and Martin Truex Jr.
Perfectly executed, and that tells me the confidence that Daniel Suarez has in his race car to be able to do that in the middle of the corner.
Now, Jeff, I can't ask you. I've got to ask Darrell. There's got to be nothing sweeter than passing the car you used to drive.
I bet he's going by saying, nah, 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 nah.
Suarez was in the 19 last year for Joe Gibbs Racing.
And, you know, I'm sure that Martin Truex Jr. is a smart guy. He might have said, that's Suarez. I might ought to let him slide in front of me, too. Might not want to push the issue.
A little extra motivation, though, for Daniel Suarez.
Oh, I agree 100%. Sure. I love that.
And thanks to Daniel for wearing our Fox visor cam for the Clash.
And
40 of 75 laps.
And just to iterate, what happened there, Suarez didn't pick up speed. He slowed Truex in the 19 down because of dumping that air and putting more drag on that race car.
Yeah, I mean, our animation does a nice job of kind of showing the airflow, but we can't see that air and how it's coming off the nose of these race cars and being diverted outward to be able to put that air on the rear spoiler and in that left rear fender well to drag the 19 of Truex back.
Well, now, under the caution, Eric Almirola and Daniel Suarez were both penalized, one for being over the wall too soon, the other for speeding. Almirola still at the back there at 19th, but here is Daniel Suarez has fought his way all the way up to 7th place.
Well, I mean, when you have a fast car, and that 40, well, we know that 41's fast. When you got a fast car, you're an aggressive driver, and you do just what we saw him do to Martin Truex Jr. there, you can work your way back to the front.
Kurt Busch in his new ride, a Chevrolet, spent a good part of this race in front of younger brother Kyle. Now those positions were reversed. Kyle in 5th, Kurt in 6th.
The hands say it all.
You know he's talking to his crew chief because?
Well, I don't know why, but it obviously something he's not real thrilled about. I don't know if it's something that happened on track or just the weather.
I think he wants a windshield wiper.
Fellas, we listened in.
Yeah, it was a tough call, man. It's like the Twilight Zone. Wanted to make a move, did that much behind us. It would have put us out there on an island. Yeah, anytime there's a last car in line, you're in a semi-panic. And then when you go to somebody's inside and start to dump more air on their spoiler, then they become the back. Yeah, tip for.
And look, those guys watch TV. You think they don't see that animation that Larry has? Maybe they didn't realize what that was doing when they were side drafting that car. But now they know because we showed them what happens.
So now everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
I'm a crew chief. I'll take credit for it.
Amen. Well, in your animation, Larry, you showed how they're turning the air out that left rear wheel well back there.
Well, where I learned it, I worked with the master at it, Dale Earnhardt, and we had no idea what it was doing when he was doing that back then.
Oh, no, he'd run
he knew it.
Oh, yeah. He'd put that fender right up in your door and then swing out. I said, what are you doing? He said, side drafting, baby.
He perfected it. I'm not sure he discovered it, but he certainly did perfect it and make it an art. So, in this green flag run, one driver has advanced.
Yes, they have, and we were just riding on board, so let's go inside and hear what Daniel Suarez has to say. Hey, Daniel, this is Jeff Gordon. How you doing, man? Looking good out there.
Hey, Jeff. I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're having fun up there as well.
Well, we certainly are because we just watched from that visor cam and some great shots of you side drafting, well, that car you used to drive, that 19 car. Tell us about that move.
Yeah, honestly, I'm extremely happy with the 41 Ford Mustang has automation. It's been pretty fast, just trying to take my time and trying to stay, out of trouble and keep myself in a decent track position. But with this weather, we don't really know how long the race is going to be. So I had a little gap from behind, and I thought to try something, and it worked out well. So let's see if I can do a few more of those.
Well, Daniel, what I liked about that move is typically we'll see somebody get a run and go all the way down to shortcut the track on the yellow line, then slide up in front of somebody. Instead, you chose to side draft and actually dump some air in the left rear fender well and the rear spoiler of Mark Truex Jr. to complete that pass. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, like I said, this 41 Mustang is pretty fast, so it's making me look good. Hopefully we can keep it up here.
All right, well, it's obviously handling pretty good, too, not just fast. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, they're going to pull him down pit road one more time as the ceiling gets lower here, and there's a good bit of raindrops on the windshield and on the track in Daytona. Lunchtime. Well, for him, maybe. For us, it's well past lunchtime, headed for dinner. But the cars are stopped on pit road because of a wet racetrack. They are drying the track in the back straightaway. We're hopeful of getting back to racing fairly soon. Right now, let's check back with the Fox Sports studio. Shannon Spake.
Thanks so much, Mike. Welcome inside. We are here. It's nice and dry inside the studio. I'm Shannon Spake, Adam Alexander, Regan Smith, Michael Waltrip, all here hanging out watching this race. And what we've seen so far, we've seen a lot of single file runs. We did see some 3 wide, but the majority of it has been single file. What do you think? Is this a surprise to you, Michael?
Well, I just think we got the fastest cars to the front early. And when that happens, they're going to pull you along pretty good. And that 21 car, Menards, is on a rail, and he's got that Roush Yates horsepower into the hood. and it's making things happen. As a driver, it's frustrating, though, if you're sitting there 5th, 6th, 7th, and you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You can see the line is right around the top of the track, Regan. There's no way to get around the guy, and if you dive to the bottom, chances are you're going back.
And that's the biggest key is if you do dive to the bottom and nobody goes with you, then you are going to go to the back. We saw some shots in Kurt Busch's car during the beginning of that race where he was lifting all the way off the throttle going into the corner, and that even though he had that big momentum and he could have used that, if he dives down there and nobody goes with him, he's going to be in 20th place. They don't want to do that. This should not be that much of a surprise, though. We saw at Talladega the same thing happen last year at the end of the season where the Fords were able to get lined up. They were able to go out there and string the field out this way. It just happened to be the Stewart-Haas Fords, not the Penske Fords.
And let me tell you what I see, Adam. These guys don't have a choice right now. But if the tires get hot, the track temperature goes up at all. I saw some cars that were on the edge of control. They were slipping and sliding. That's why Daniel Suarez was able to make that nice move on Truex. I think Martin was getting a little bit free maybe into the corner. That's where these cars want to give way. And so if we see some green flag racing, more green flag racing, that outside rim riding could become more of a problem.
We have always said the Clash is a great opportunity to get a head start on the Daytona 500, especially when you run this event on a Sunday afternoon like we did last year and again here in 2019. But with the weather conditions we're seeing, if it's hot and sunny next Sunday, are these guys really gaining an advantage?
I think it'll be a different story. I think the race will look much different if the sun's shining on the track because handling will become a premium. Handling at Daytona has always been way more important than it is at Talladega. I understood how they were able to break away down in Alabama, but I don't think it happens in Daytona.
You know, Daytona is one of those places when you go into the corner that very often you can go in on the bottom and let your car go all the way to the top just because of the handling. So we could see a very, very different 500 next Sunday because of that. We got to remember, too, you're going to have 20 more cars on the racetrack, and that changes the energy within that pack, and it may allow them to stay side by side for a longer period of the time at the beginning of these runs. And we've seen this before down here with a Clash gets single file, and we think, oh, my goodness, what's going to happen? Then all of a sudden we come back for the 500, and we're 2 and 3 wide and on the edge of our seats the entire time. This race, to me, with the weather conditions, really more closely resembles what's going to happen in the duels later on this week.
All right, once again, we are under caution right now, red flag because of the rain. So let's get you caught up on what happened earlier today in qualifying down in Daytona. Can you say 2 words, Adam? Hendrick Motorsports.
And I would add power to that.
Power.
Huh?
3 words. 3
Domination.
This is what we saw. Not just 1, not just 2, not just 3, but 4 Hendrick Motorsports. Top 4 for that organization.
Alex Bowman, who won the pole a season ago, outside front row for the Daytona 500. Only one man was faster in qualifying today, his teammate William Byron, who gets his first career pole on the big stage, the 700th pole in the history of NASCAR for Chevrolet, and they're the 2 drivers that will lead him to the green next Sunday afternoon. This is the 6th time that Hendrick Motorsports has swept the front row for the Daytona 500, and I go to William Byron. So much change for him in 2019. First time in his career, he's not in a rookie season, his 2nd consecutive year at the Cup level, and he goes out and wins the pole for the biggest race.
And I just love it for Willie B. He's a great guy. He's really fast behind the wheel, and he had to be perfect on that qualifying lap to grab that pole.
You know, the best part for him is he's 21 now. Him and Chad can go celebrate this together tonight, and he's legal to do that. So a very good start for those guys in their relationship.
Chad did look a little excited after that qualifying run. He was a little bit proud of the way that they put that car on the track. Mike?
Thanks, Shannon. Asked William Byron, do you have a nickname? He says, no. Do I need one? I don't think so. His dad's name is Bill, so he goes by William. Yeah. And he'll go by pole sitter come next Sunday for the 500. Under the red flag, a little bit of rain. The ceiling is lifting. I don't think we're too far from getting cars back on track.
Let me see if I can wake up Boyer. I'm sure he's asleep. Clint Boyer, DW here. Are you there, brother?
What's happening, Cat?
Look at here. Are you going to ride around in the back all day, or are you going to drive up front and try to win this thing? What you playing here, man?
Well, unless you can come up with a better plan, it's kind of follow the leader right now. That outside line is extremely beneficial, but that being said, I restart on the bottom here, so maybe something different will formulate.
I know. I'm surprised that everybody's riding around the top, and every time it seems like somebody goes to the bottom, they fall to the back. How you going to what are you going to do here? You gotta do something, make something happen here.
Yeah. Well,
Stating the
I'm hoping
obvious.
something will happen. You know, I mean, unfortunately, you got to wait till something happens in front of you. I mean, right here, mid-pack, if I could get a big run. It seems like the longer they run, you know, getting closer to the end of the fuel run or tires or something like that, it starts breaking up a little bit and you get better runs, and I think you can make that bottom work and kind of dip down and get you 1 or 2 positions and get back up with a good run, but we'll see.
All right, buddy. Yeah, give it heck here, and we'll be watching. Thanks for talking, buddy.
Thanks, pal.
Clint Boyer will roll off 9th when we restart. Now, amongst those Fords at the front, Denny Hamlin has been in an odd position, Jeff. If he pulls out to make a move, would anybody go with him?
Yeah, they're getting ready to roll off pit road. I think that track's getting dry, but let's see if we can dial up Denny. Hey, Denny, this is Jeff up in the booth. You got me? Let's let him get rolled off there before we try him again. Hey, Denny, this is Jeff up in the booth. You got time for us? Hey, man, great job. Really aggressive move coming to pit road. Pretty impressive. Now you got yourself in second, but you've got a Ford in front of you, a Ford back of you. What's the plan, man? I know you don't like to just sit there in second place.
Well, I'm okay for right now, but it certainly is not gonna be happy with it for very long. But I think as long as I put myself in the top 4 or so, get down to the home stretch, I think we'll be fine. So I don't need to lead every lap. There's one in particular I'd like to lead.
Yeah, well, we've seen you do that before. I'm sure you can figure it out. And now with this caution, maybe that'll break up those Fords a little bit. I think you might have a Chevrolet behind you and Jimmie Johnson. So we'll see how you guys can work together. But good luck. Have some fun. I know it's going to get pretty dicey here at the end.
Yeah, I'm suspecting that people are looking at the scoreboard right now and counting down the laps and saying, we're not going to be doing this much longer.
No, well, we're certainly hoping you don't.
Yeah, right. You know, if it's up to me, we wouldn't be.
Well, we're counting on you.
All right, 32 laps to go. Pit road is open in case anybody wants to stop this time, but all of that track drying equipment is headed for home. We want to try to get this finished under green.
Well, that's the nice thing is these little clouds that have come in here, they've been a pretty light drizzle, and so that track dries off really fast.
I believe I did see possibly Ryan Blaney's 12 pit crew getting in position. Remember, when he came to pit road, no tires, fuel only, and he's fallen all the way back to 15th. It would make all the sense in the world, come get 4 tires.
Tires over the wall for Chase Elliott.
Yeah, I think if I'm in the back half of the field, I'd like to come down pit road, put 4 tires on, and get me some security here because you're going to need it.
All right, here's some Ryan Blaney team audio.
I'm thinking we need to pit unless enough cars pit to where we would be in the outside row. Like we're going to have to keep up with how many pit so we can be, you know what I mean?
Well, 2 pitted, and they were behind him. Chase Elliott is in, getting service.
Mike, I don't think this is a terrible move. I really think maneuverability late in this race, everybody's tires wear down a little bit. You need to make some sliced and dicing moves. This could help you.
Alex Bowman just coming out of his pit stall.
And if you're Alex Bowman, you got nothing to lose. I mean, He was already, I think, 19th. Chase Elliott was probably just a couple ahead of him.
Larry, you surprised there weren't more takers?
Well, I am, because it's no speed in those tires. As Jeff said, maneuverability, but I have never heard at Daytona drivers electing to stay out based on what line you were going to restart. That is a first right there.
But today, you needed to be in that top lane from about the 2nd or 3rd lap after a restart on, or go to the back.
Well, they're quick learners. Everybody sees what's going on. What everybody's faced with right now, other than Paul Menard and a couple cars in front, how are we going to break this thing up? How are we going to get up there and break this thing up?
And one other area that I think is helping them make decisions on not needing tires is this cloud cover, keeping that track nice and cool.
Yep.
NASCAR's biggest week gets rolling Thursday. The Cup drivers will fight for a starting position in the duels. Friday night, we'll see the newest generation of drivers in the truck race. Saturday, the young guns of the Xfinity Series battle it out in their season opener. And in the final stage, the sport's best look to make history on Sunday in the great American race. You won't want to miss it.
Speed Weeks 2019 in Daytona. First NASCAR checkered flag of the week coming up here in the Clash of 2019. Doing a little extra sweep up down through the tri-oval here so that the track is fully in raceable condition. And let's see if we can get a one to go this time by.
You know, Mike, these pits, these pit crews are full of specialists. I'm pretty sure they got a weather specialist down there that's probably keeping a really close eye on this radar and when this next Shire is going to roll in here and how that's going to affect the outcome of this race.
And you know they're relaying that to those drivers, and I don't think it's that far away. So I think that there's going to be some real urgency. This getting in this outside lane and getting single file, I think that's out the window right now.
And we're past halfway, so that any rain shower could be, or any restart could be the last restart of the race. Well, what's Paul Menard's team got to say about that?
The next batch of rain is a little heavier, could last a little longer, and affect the outcome of the race.
That was
Do you have any good news? But that's what Denny Hamlin was talking about. You know, they're looking at the weather same as we are. They have the same apps that we have on their phones, and they're trying to figure out, is this going to be the money restart?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, right now, if I'm Paul Menard, Denny Hamlin up there in the 11 car, he's the spoiler in this whole thing. Because that 11 car is fast. And if he could get in front of Paul Menard, I don't know if he could get around him or not.
Well, what are the Wood brothers tweeting right now?
That's perfect. Oh my God.
Now we see here Paul Menard chose that outside lane. He wanted Jimmie Johnson as his pusher on this restart. And not Brad Keselowski. I really thought he would have gone with Brad Keselowski.
Kind of surprising, I think.
I think he's found his speed on the outside and wants to be there from the get-go.
Yeah. It's a good point, yeah. Because that last time, you know, he had to go from that bottom lane and then go up and block that outside lane. So I think you're right.
Well, remember, look, we got three different manufacturers. You got a Ford, a Toyota, and a Chevrolet back there with Keselowski down there, his teammate. I guess he feels like Jimmie Johnson would be a lot better to be pushing him and have that 11 car slide up in front of him.
Now, only the race leader has lane choice. Everyone else must hold their position as they form up for the restart.
This is a hard part of one of these restarts, is figuring out who you want behind you and how it's going to affect, you know, the first lap of this restart.
Well, let's find out.
Here we go.
Coming to complete lap 47 of 75. We're back under green.
Wow, Kyle Busch wasted no time to get in that outside lane in front of his teammate Mark Truex Jr. Jimmie Johnson gave Paul Menard a nice shove to get out front to be able to choose which lane he wants to block.
Boy, now this right here is when it gets dicey, because that 21 car, Paul Menard, he's going to have to work both sides. He's going to have to see which side has the energy, and he's going to have to drop down and block.
Boy, this is going to have a big effect on Keselowski. You see the 41 of Suarez takes him 3 wide, shuffles him back.
Daniel Suarez making the moves. Now up to 6th place, right behind the FedEx Toyota of Hamlin. Maybe they can get that inside lane going to the front.
You know, Mike, the 21 car, the Wood brothers have never won the Clash. And right now, that 21 car is strong, man. That thing is out front and holding the lead.
Here goes Suarez, going to try to get by Denny Hamlin, but
no help.
The guy he just went by and took 3 wide down the back straightaway says, no, I get to control this one.
Oh, that'll get harder and harder and harder.
That's going to cost Suarez a lot of positions.
Yep.
Was a great move. He just needed somebody to go with him.
Maybe he should have waited a little later. Maybe he should have waited later to make that move. Boy, it just seems like, Mike, Jeff, you got to get in that outside line and hang on.
Yeah, I really didn't think that they would do that on this late in the race, and with rain on the way, I really thought that it was going to be double foul for quite a while. Here's a little bit of a move happening on that outside lane. I mean, look at how the 11 is getting shuffled back so quickly.
But this helps explain why Paul Menard chose the outside even though he didn't have a teammate with him. He knew that's where the speed was, and as soon as they formed up, that outside lane could take off.
Well, it's never bad to have a 7-time champ on your back bumper.
Good point. How about this year's champ, Joey Logano?
He's looking.
22.
He's lurking. You hear the guys working the throttle. Just, you know, it can't run over the guy in front of you. You got to kind of keep that gap, mind the gap.
50 laps complete, 25 to go.
Boy, I was wrong about Denny Hamlin. he's going nowhere.
Yeah, it just takes more than 4 cars. You know, you need 8, 9 cars down there in that inside lane. I think that inside lane could start working its way back forward, but everybody, the trend right now is get in that outside lane and get single file as fast as possible.
Yeah, you got Keselowski. I mean, we know he's got a fast car, but that outside has just got all the momentum, man. They got all the energy.
Back at 16th, Chase Elliott and his number 9 Chevy, featuring a special Mountain Dew Team Rubicon scheme. Here's a look back at Chase's strong 2018. Three big wins after 8 runner-up finishes.
And Mike, trust me, and Jeff knows, this is the hardest thing to do, is set in line. You so want to drop down because you feel like you could get by a car or two in front of you. But you also know that if you do, you're going to go to the back. So you got to sit here. Look, this is my favorite saying. You got to sit on this hot stove and pee ice water, because that's what you're doing right now.
Well, I think for Denny Hamlin, he's committed. So is Brad Keselowski. I think if they can hold their own on this bottom lane, which they're doing a pretty nice job of, they might get some more takers. They might get some other drivers to look down there and say, you know, if we could add a couple to this line, we might actually start to be able to make some gains.
If we should happen to make it.
And here's one with Joey Logano.
If we should happen to make it.
Boy,
to
a bunch of these. That was what, 3 cars right there decided to step out of line and get by Jamie McMurray.
Logano, Blaney, and Harvick all made that move to the inside. Here's a look at it. Logano peeks out.
Whoa. So that's coming out of the trial. Well, sometimes you can get a big burst of momentum coming into that trial and make a move. But Logano, he's tired of being in that outside lane.
Here they come again, off turn 4.
Just out of line.
And lucky for Logano, he had some help. He had some other Ford teammates go right along there with them.
Logano and Blaney. Logano up to 4th on the inside.
I think you're going to start to see this inside lane form up now. There's enough of them down there running that shorter lane. They're going to start making some progress.
But that's where Paul Menard, now he's going to have to watch that inside lane, and when they get to him, he's going to have to drop down and go with the 22 car.
Yeah, that's not going to do anybody any favors. That sort of slowed the 11 car's momentum down. You saw the 2 of Brad Keselowski get to the left rear quarter panel and almost turn the 11 sideways.
But Logano and Blaney on the inside have speed. The first time anybody on the inside has charged toward the front.
Well, if you can get enough good cars in that inside lane and see Denny Hamlin jumping out into that outside lane is really going to slow the momentum down. But that shorter line around the bottom with the right cars down there will make their advances to the front.
Mike, I've seen this time and time again. That inside line will look like it's a way to go. It'll get almost to the front, and then I don't know what happens, but you fall right back to the rear again.
Logano was up even with 3rd. Now he is 6th. 7th.
I'm telling you, it's the hardest thing to do is set in that outside line. Have a guy like Logano down there on your door and stay in that outside line.
Well, the Penske cars have lined up on the bottom. Can they pull to the front?
Larry, I hope they've been watching your animation, because they're going to need to do a little side drafting here.
I'm afraid they may end up doing more than side drafting here shortly.
You think you're going to trade a little paint? I think Menard right now is in the catbird seat. He can stay in that outside lane with Jimmie Johnson on his back bumper. That's working really well.
Oh, Jimmie going to take. Oh,
no, Jimmie!
Contact.
And around goes Menard into the wall, taking cars with him.
Come on, high. Clear, clear, clear. All clear.
Yeah.
Big wreck.
You got it.
Well, I'm just wondering, did that suck the back end of the car around on Menard, or did they make contact that turned him around?
When the 48 gets on your bumper like that, it probably had something to do with it.
4 cars were out in front of that melee.
My.
Make that 6. And everybody else got a piece of it.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at it, and we'll determine how that happened.
First, we're going to ride with Kurt Busch. Now, he is behind Jimmie Johnson's number 48.
Jimmie just got a run. Went to side draft the left rear of the 21 of Paul Menard. I don't know if Paul came down a little bit, but they got too close and hit.
Paul never moved. It looked like it sucked Jimmie into him. I think he made a miscalculation there.
Yeah, Menard comes off the wall a little bit. It just a misjudgment.
Yeah.
And made contact, turned him around.
Look at look at that. That's a wad of wrecked race cars.
That's the world's fastest wrecking yard right there.
Oh my gosh, Mike. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that.
Look at Alex Bowman in the 88. Hard on the brakes. He's going to get through this. I'm not sure how, but he did.
Well, he's the only one.
Yeah.
Still half out front. The 12, 2 back is all right. Front. Reckon. Up in the middle. Scratch the brake here. Scratch the brake. Right.
And we'll ride with Jamie McMurray next.
Half in front. Spin ahead, he'll spin.
Jamie actually made it through there.
Yep.
But unfortunately, got hit from behind.
Daniel Suarez carrying our Fox visor cam.
You know what you call that, Mike? That was a clash.
Up high, they're up high. Up high, stay in the middle, stay in the middle. Come on down, 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 you're clear left. We got into it pretty bad. Hold the brake.
There's just nothing you can do. It's such a helpless feeling right there. You start to see cars turning sideways and smoke, and you're trying to slow down on the brakes as hard as you can. But you're right in the middle of it and going along for a ride.
Look at the number 9 right in the middle of all that, Chase Elliott. He did get a little bump from Bowman in the back, and he got into Eric Jones and Austin Dillon a bit.
But compared to those other guys, yeah, his car looks pretty good.
It does. And then he's going to kind of fight his way through.
I think as long as he can keep 4 tires with air in them, depending on what happens here weather-wise and everything, whether they go back racing.
Let's go back to the start of this.
So Jimmie got a run. I think a little bit of rain was starting to fall. Yep. So he saw the urgency. He said, you know what, if I get a run, I'm going to take it. And he did. And your normal move is to get up there and just side draft, as we've been showing earlier, on that left rear tire, and that's exactly what Jimmie Johnson went to do. Unfortunately, just misjudged. Paul came down a little bit. They made contact, turned the 21 around.
And did you see the Busch brothers? Kurt shot through, and it looks like what happened to Kyle that he spun there, but don't think he made any contact with anyone else.
He's getting ready to.
Until then, until Brad Keselowski got into him.
I think Mother Nature said, I've seen enough.
And the sky is crying once again.
Yeah.
So the track drying equipment goes back out to turn 1 yet again.
And this rain here is falling a little heavier than what we've seen so far.
Yeah, this is a pretty hard shower right here.
I'm not sure that I saw Paul Menard start to come down the racetrack until after he had the contact from Jimmie Johnson, which tipped his car in that direction.
These spoilers are a little bit wider than they were a year ago. And when you widen that spoiler out just a little bit, it creates a little more suction or pulling of the car. So I don't know if when Jimmie Johnson stepped out, if it pulled the back of the car around of Paul Menard, or if he just wanted to come off the wall to try to slow his momentum down. But it was clear that Jimmie tried to get as close to him as possible to side draft, and that made the contact.
Yeah, I just think Jimmie misjudged that. He got in the left rear of Paul Menard and turned him around.
We're going to hear some audio from Paul Menard's team.
What happened? Have any idea what happened? Yeah, they're showing it again. I'll have to watch it again. I think, yeah, we zagged and he zigged. I mean, they were going for the same space.
They're going to pull the cars down pit road. There are 8 cars behind the pace car, still running with no or minimal damage. Kurt Busch got through unscathed. So did Joey Logano. A little bit on Ryan Blaney's. Alex Bowman's car, we saw the nudge he got to the nose. Chase Elliott still running. Austin Dillon pretty well crumpled up, and it looked like Eric Almirola missed most of it. So, yeah, usually we have a graphic of cars involved in wreck. We're going to do it the other way around.
Oh, there's 3 cars that were not involved.
Kurt Busch was in exactly the right spot, because when Johnson tipped the 21 and sent Menard to the inside, that just opened up nothing but daylight in front of Kurt Busch.
Yeah, nobody's wanting this to go back to green more than Kurt Busch. I think right now, I think he feels like he's got a shot at it. Larry?
Well, this thing is not over, but I was just sitting here thinking, one of the biggest stories of the offseason was a driver and a crew chief that had been together for 17 years, 7 championships and 83 wins, splitting up, Chad Knaus and Jimmie Johnson. We might be looking at a day where one of them has sat on the pole for the Daytona 500, Chad Knaus, and we may be looking at a day where a man finally goes back to victory lane after not visiting it since the spring of 2017, Jimmie Johnson. How ironic would that be? I know it's not a points race. I know it's not over, but the biggest story of the offseason, look what it's maybe yielded today.
Yeah, the yellow there indicates the crew chief swap between the 24 and the 48 at Hendrick Motorsports. And, you know, after qualifying, the 2 former teammates shared a hug, and Jimmie said, well, Chad, he says, you got me my first pole, and now you've got your new driver his first pole, too.
And you know, Mike, I spoke to Jimmie Johnson, sat down with him and did an interview for the Daytona 500, and he said, I think we're both going to do good on our own.
Yes.
And there's certainly a lot of a great relationship, lasted a long time, that still continues. Matt, you have something down on pit road?
Well, Clint Boyer's been checked and released from the Infield Care Center. Paul Menard has just walked out as well. Wow, what happened?
Not really sure. I have to see a replay. Jimmie pulled out. I kind of moved down. Yeah, I moved down a little bit. And next thing I know, I'm just getting turned in the left rear. So, yeah, just aggressive. Yeah, okay. It's Jimmie does that a lot at these tracks, so it's unfortunate. We had a really fast motorcraft quick lane Ford Mustang, led a lot of laps, and bumped into a torp car for no reason.
Good indication of what we could see Thursday and next Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, all temperature dependent, I think. You know, hopefully it's hot and sunny, and then we start sliding around, and you won't see us, you know, just migrating to the fast lane. Hopefully do a little more racing, but yeah, I mean, it sucks that you know, the aggressive side drafting caused that big old crash.
Thanks, Paul. Vince?
And with Jimmie Johnson and Jimmie just climbing out of the car after the rain starts to fall heavier here. What happened there with Paul?
Just knowing the rain's coming. You know, we could see it coming. I knew that was probably my lap to make the move, and I had a great run down the back. I got below him before he blocked it, and then I think he came down a little bit to defend and block. You know, I got that move inside of him, and was hopeful that the one was going to be following me through, but certainly hate to see all these cars tore up. And I'm here, make my move, I'm there, and then it just starts coming over. So I think it was more of a racing thing than anything. I feel sorry for Paul. I feel sorry for all the teams that lost race cars, but I'm here to win races in the satellite cars fast.
Thanks, Jimmie. Mike?
Thanks, Vince. We did see in that replay what happened to Kyle Busch as the 21 spun and came back up the racetrack. He caught Kyle in the rear quarter panel, and that's what turned the 18 around.
Yeah, and it just, you know, this incident just reminds me, we've seen down here now for the last 2 or 3 years, bump drafting and side drafting, when you get aggressive with it, it causes carnage.
There is your winner of the Clash of 2019. Due to the heavy rain, the race has been called. It's official. Jimmie Johnson is your winner.
You know, a year ago, somebody got in the rear bumper of him on that final
last
back
lap.
straightaway, last lap, turned him around, and this year he's on the other end of it.
It's the first time in the last 8 clashes that Johnson is running at the finish, all the way to victory lane.
Yeah, I mean, you hate to see what happened to Paul Menard, and certainly Jimmie felt like he had a move, and it was time. We saw the rain coming. I'm sure the teams were telling him the rain was coming. You make an aggressive move, and you know, these we saw it last year in the Daytona 500. You know, the same thing happened to the guy leading the race in the 500 last year.
Here's what happened in the back straightaway. Jimmie Johnson gets into Paul Menard, who goes around, collects most of the field, and Johnson wins the Clash.
Come on high, clear, all clear.
Jimmie Johnson taking the slow walk to victory lane as he's the winner of the Clash of 2019. Let's go all the way back to turn 2 on what ended up being the final lap.
And again, I think some raindrops started falling. Jimmie Johnson knew it was time to get a run. Watch the 40 of Jimmie Johnson backs up to the 1 car. That's where the momentum's going to come from. That push and that bubble between those two. And watch this run and that gap that was built between he and the 21 Paul Menard. That's what gave him the momentum to make that move happen. Now, when it comes to the side draft, I think Paul Menard has a good point. That was a very aggressive side draft that there was just no margin for any car to move left or right, and that's why they made contact.
No, he was right on his left rear quarter panel, and again, if the air or Paul or whatever made any sort of a move at all, that was going to be the result.
And one of the beneficiaries of all that was Kyle Busch. Here's Matt.
And he's walked out of the infield care center. Is this more of an indication of what we saw last year in the 500 with a lot of blocking that created a lot of issues?
I don't know exactly. I wasn't necessarily I mean, I was paying attention, obviously, but just when I was behind the one, I was so focused on him, I guess, and then the move that kind of went to the bottom, I saw the 48 making a move on the 21, and I don't know if the 21 came down and what all contact exactly initiated it, but then I just tried to make it squeeze through the hole before the 21 got back up to me, but couldn't do it. So it's just a product of kind of what we got going on, you know, just with everybody trying to make runs sometimes, and when you do get those runs, you try to make sure that they stick and you can get past the guys, so the side draft's really important, and there's not a lot of room for cars to move around like they tend to do. So overall, I thought we had a good race going and wish we would have ended up being able to finish it, but you know, we'll look forward to the 500 now.
We were joking around earlier today about your ankle, but on a serious note, how is the ankle, especially after the crash?
It's fine. You know, just messing around with my son, just playing on trampoline, stuff like that. So I guess I can't hang, you know. So it is what it is, and I'll be fine next week. I mean, I'm moving and I'm walking and everything. So it's just a bit tender, but overall it'll be all right.
Thanks, KB. Vince.
Well, walking into victory lane isn't exactly what Jimmie Johnson had in mind when he was hoping to win the Clash today, but victory lane is victory lane. Congratulations. You won the Clash. How's it feel to be back in victory lane?
It feels good. Don't let this race car run you over on its way in. Just really happy about, you know, obviously a great day for Hendrick Motorsports, for Chevrolet, for Ally coming on board and qualifying third for the Daytona 500. And then to win the Clash. Kevin Menard leading this team. You know, there's been a lot of new things going on. I'm extremely excited to win. I want to say hello to my family back home, especially to Lydia. She's been wanting Daddy to win pretty bad, so it's not a points race, but it's a good start.
There's so much talk about the split between you and Chad. The irony of Chad winning the pole with William Byron today and you winning the race with your new crew chief, Kevin Menard. I think the two of you might be okay, you know, without one another.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about that exactly, but I did mention to Chad that he was able to win me my first pole here for the 500 and did the same for William. Really happy for those guys. But this group of Ally team members I have behind me, these guys have been working so hard, and we're off to a great start this year.
Congratulations. Jimmie Johnson back in victory lane. He's won the Clash at Daytona.
10th in the half marathon this morning, third in Daytona 500 qualifying, and a winner in the Clash of 2019. Coming up Thursday, the Can-Am Duel at Daytona. Coverage begins 5:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Then it's Race Hub weeknights, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And coming up next, the NHRA Winter Nationals from Pomona. Great day for Rick Hendrick and Hendrick Motorsports, winning the pole for next week's 500 and winning the Clash with Jimmie Johnson.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our fans for your support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.